I love that we're getting into very controversial territory. Things that people don't like saying, but it's truth.
End of the day, you are literally a lion, but lion in a circus. And the ringmaster is the organization.
This amazing journey you've been through from the CHRO to become an entrepreneur now who's running such a successful company.
The fundamental mistake we do as founders is hiring a leader purely based on technical competency. कुछ फटा है
Correct.
company में, let's
Yeah, I'll get
hire a
somebody.
brilliant
Yeah.
jerk. So I can give you in writing that a person who's not a good people manager will somewhere stop at his career or her career,
Yeah,
and then they will
100%.
struggle.
So, Zeeshan, you've written in one of your posts something that one of your clients shared, saying that, Zeeshan, when we work with you, we are not just engaging a search firm, but we are getting a former CHRO doing the sourcing. Now, what can possibly be better than that? Now, I love that statement and sentiment that's coming from one of your clients. I wanted to take that as context and ask you about this amazing journey you've been through from the CHRO to become an entrepreneur now who's running such a successful company. Would love to hear your journey and your story.
I loved business as a child. I come from a
Okay.
family of doctors. All my siblings are medical professionals. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to literally fight it out to tell my parents that I don't want to get into the line of medical, right? Because I was
Medical. Yeah.
very much into creativity. So when people ask, what do you want to become? I'd always say, I want to set up something. And I think that continues to stay with me. Last week, I was talking to somebody and she told me that, Zeeshan, there was always a business side to you. What took you so much time to set it up? The first 3 years in Infosys was purely into employee relations. Then I thought that, hey, I can't be doing this throughout my career. So let me try and now expand. Then I got into HR business partnering for the next 5.5 years. I've realized for you to succeed in your life, you will need to be making important and mindful choices. And that choice cannot be after you complete 10 years in a company. You will need to do that as you grow up in your career ladder. And my message to all of them watching your podcast today, right, especially freshers, if you want to become something in life, achieve something in life, start early, start planning. Through that journey, I was able to also do two things. One is build a strong network. I have a mentor who hired me at Intuit. He's now the CHRO at Tesco, Somnath Baisha. And he used to tell me, Zeeshan, shamelessly brand yourself. And I feel it's so important, right? Because people today know me through most of my LinkedIn posts, right? And branding is just talking about things that matter to you and that could matter to others. And the second thing I've been able to achieve, I think, through my career is ability to get my hands dirty. Imagine you're just placed as a leader or a mid senior position in a company where you've not got your hands dirty, Rana. Then you don't understand the ground reality. You cannot empathize with what your teams are going through. So I tell all my team members, I've always told them that if you have to excel in something, understand the root and foundation. If you don't, then it's very difficult for you in the journey, right? I think that's network and getting my hands dirty are two things I feel have helped me in this journey as an entrepreneur in a big way.
You mentioned a bunch of very useful things, right? One on mindful choices, and I also tell this to people, like people who take up roles. I advise them that when you're taking on a role, think of your next role. Like, what is that role going to unlock for you for your next one? And people feel like, oh, how should you think that I should only think of this current role? But ideally, that role is going to be a stepping stone maybe into another role, whether it's in the same company or outside. Do you want to double click a little on this mindful choices? On let's take in two angles. One for people who are in the careers, right? Like you said, someone who's a fresher, someone who's early into the career. What are the mindful choices they should keep in mind or they should do? And also somebody who's later on in their career, right? The mindful choices there that leads you to entrepreneurship if such is the goal.
I feel I meet a lot of people today, freshers specifically. You know the AI revolution. You know there are so many roles that are going to be redundant. You read so many things about software engineering itself just being redundant, right, going
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
But they still have choices, saying, I only want to do data analytics in specific area. I only want to get into HR in a startup world. I only want to give, like, I just got a message saying, can you find me internship opportunities? But here are the only 5 companies that I want to work. And that had Amazon, Google, TCS, etc. I feel if
Entitlement.
you are a fresher, if you've not cracked the campus interview, etc., and you're
Mm.
looking for a job, it's important for you to find a livelihood that is doing, just getting into a corporate and doing, experimenting and trying to do things that you may not be comfortable with. I have realized that nothing is rocket science. We
Mm.
always think that leaders or HR leader, just HR leader as an example, right? I should always think that head of HR is a big role. Will I be ever be able to do justice for a HR leadership role? Can I get into doing everything about HR? I've had experience in employee relations, HRPP or something, but can I lead it entirely? Believe in yourself. Never think that this is an area, this is something that I cannot do. So no, I
Mm.
can't. Right? I meet so many people. I say that, hey, why don't you apply for this role? No, I have not done that, so I don't think I'll be able to. I said, you're so good in terms of learnability. Why don't you represent yourself? The organization may just like you. Be very open and candid and get it, right? That zeal is missing. And if that zeal is missing, you will not go anywhere. I think these are two things. Believe in yourself,
Mm.
because that is extremely kind of important. Never think that this is an area that I cannot do at work.
Mm. And what about you spoke of networking, right? That and networking is ultimately everything that unlocks doors. Even at an early stage, the best way to get a job is actually through a referral, and referring is nothing but networking. And in business, of course, it goes without saying. Is there anything like any way that I know it's an art, like it's something that you're good at or you're not, but how do you typically find yourself networking? Is there something that you're mindfully you keep doing, or it just comes naturally to you?
The best way to network is to connect with individuals at a personal level without
Hmm.
agenda. When your
Hmm.
mind is free of agenda, is when I think results follow. So I never network with an agenda in mind. I just
Hmm.
network, connect with people, get to know them personally. Today, most of
Hmm.
my connects know that I have two kids. My wife is a working professional. I am based out of Bangalore. I have an office in Bangalore. They know about Talentzy. They know my story about why Talentzy started. In fact, we sent our corporate goodies to everybody for New Year, right? All my Kutch clients. And I have written
Nice.
a handwritten note. It only talks about my personal journey, why I started
Oh
entrepreneurship,
wow.
why it means, what it means to slow down in life, and things like that. So I've never gone and tackled networking as an agenda. That's point one. Second, I feel networking is like your polio drops. You you use it today, you see results in years to come. And
Hmm.
third, I have realized this when I started charity, when I started my own NGO 13 years back. You help others, help will follow.
Hmm.
The more you give, the more you get in return. I
That's
never
true.
give thinking I have to do this because I want to get something in return, Ranak. But I feel
Hmm.
I'll do this because somebody else needs help. I'll give you examples. The other day I was talking to somebody who reached out to me saying, I want to work with you.
Hmm.
I haven't heard from that person for a long time and I want to work with you. And I always have this habit asking, why did you choose me over others? And they have
Hmm.
different reasons, right? Like one, you said, I get a head of HR to source. Second, I know you as a person, it's
Hmm.
comfortable, I can trust you, and things like that. And he told me that, Zeeshan, the reason why I want to work with you is 5 years back, I had a question and I put it in the head of HR group and you helped me answer. You are the only person who gave me directions. Now, for me, it was just random way to help. But that one unblocked so many things for people and individuals that he remembered and he wanted to come back in his own way, right? So
Hmm.
I believe it's just about helping. Today I see a lot of message, people who need help, people, when people just message and ask for help, Pranak, you must
Hmm.
understand the baggage they come with.
Yeah.
Maybe that founder or CEO is sitting on their head saying, why are you not closing this for me? You're good for
Hmm.
nothing. You're not able to do that, etc. They are reaching out to the community for help, the community which they consider as a safe space. Why not help? That's, I
Hmm.
think those are certain things that has helped me genuinely.
It's interesting you mentioned that. It's not just true. I was listening to these things, that the speeches that Tony Robbins gives, some of his podcasts, and he was very big on, like, he spent hours talking of, like, if you help people, how much it gets back. So apparently, when he was young, he didn't have much. They had a Thanksgiving where there was no dinner, and some stranger came and gave his family food. And he's like, that shaped me for the rest of my life. I wouldn't have been here if it hadn't been for that stranger who I don't know. And he took that as, his momentum, and now he's apparently fed more than 1 billion meals to people. So just one random act by some random strangers fed like 1 billion people, which is like, you never know, these butterfly effects that you talk of. All right, so see, let's talk of Talentzy. You mentioned that somebody asked you why did Talentzy start. Would love to hear your thought. Like, why did you start Talentzy, and what is it all about?
Corporate
Hmm.
life tricks you and makes you think that this is the world. And if you read about the hedonic philosophy, Ranak, our mind is tuned in a way that today we pray for something, tomorrow we
Hmm.
get that, then we pray for one more thing, then we get that. Uh, and it's always a rat race. You may win the rat race, but you will still be a rat.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong about being a rat. But the fact of the matter is, it depends on individuals, right? We constantly live in a world of validation. So every time you are promoted, you're more happy about going and sharing this news with your dad and dad being like, wow, my son is promoted. Then they have society gatherings, etc., where they come and say, hey, you know what, my son, he's promoted. The ground reality is you are suffering day in and out. Your mental peace goes for a toss. You're not able to handle emotions. You're not able to handle criticism. Your manager is on you on a weekend or night at 10 o'clock and saying, hey, get these things done, which because your manager also has a pressure. And end of
Hmm.
the day, you are literally a lion, but lion in a circus.
Hmm.
And the ringmaster is the organization. So going back to it, it was about 10 a.m., 12 a.m. when I was working, and my son was next to me, little boy was next to me for half an hour. I was on a call. I couldn't. Then I disconnected and asked, what is it? He told me, I just wanted to wish you good night. That night, Ranak, I just couldn't sleep. I read this book called From Stuck Up to Startup. I have this book, right? It's by Neeraj Kapoor. And everything that I spoke about, right, is covered in this book. He beautifully narrates a story where a lion is actually taken away by a bunch of hunters. They take the lion and keep it in a private cage. The lion that used to hunt and think it should be the king of forest is now under somebody else's thing. So over a period of time, he stops feeding the lion, and one day he gets a piece of meat and gives it to the lion. The lion refuses to eat. He goes back, doesn't force. Then every time he comes and gives the piece of meat and tells, please eat it. One day the lion doesn't have an option but to eat it because the lion is hungry. The next time he asks the lion to dance, which is ideally like a circus, right? Dance. The lion doesn't do it. I'm the king of the forest. Why should I? But over a period of time, it does. And it's so used to it, Ranak. One day they bring a live deer. The lion thinks, hey, why should I put effort in hunting and killing it while I can sit in one place and then there is this meat coming in? That entire scenario is you are the lion, somebody else is the ringmaster. There is piece of meat every time. This can be through different things, promotions, whatever. End of the day, you are in a circus and somebody else is a ringmaster. And that story like felt so true to me. That book was such a big realization that I thought, let me take a leap of faith and do it. This is why Talent Z is kind of alive. In fact, Z is both my son's name, Zayden and Zahab. Y is my wife's name, Yasmin. And people call me Z at work.
Easy.
People know me as Z, so I thought Talent Z could be a kick-ass name for me to begin. That's how it kind of started.
That's lovely. I think, first of all, I love that we're getting into very controversial territory. Things that people don't like saying, but it's truth, right? And everything that we do, I mean, we've both been sort of responsible for giving people a great environment at work. Um, the only variable here is the ringmaster. If you if you have a good ringmaster, you'll probably have a better time. If you have a bad ringmaster, things are just worse. But at the end of the day, everybody has a ringmaster, right? Let's take the lens of either somebody who's wants to start their own business because they are senior in their careers, they've been working for a few years, or the lens of somebody who's actually been laid off or whatever unfortunate event has happened, and they both feel that this is the right time for me to start something, right? As somebody who's been, when you have already built a business, what are the sort of actionable steps, actionable key takeaways or best practices you can advise them that this is how you went about it, that they can, let's say, follow or at least take guidance from?
First step, follow your heart. This is one of the most undervalued thing I feel. We talk about, hey, gut feel, whatever, but please follow your heart. Keep asking yourself, is this what you want to do? That is extremely
Mm-hmm.
important. Point one. Point two is build financial stability. So you need to have that financial stability. In fact, there's a beautiful thing I saw on the internet which said the best part about being financially stable is you can decide to move out of a job if you don't like the toxic work culture.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people today, Rana, who hate being there at work. I speak to so many people.
100%.
They're
Yeah.
just there because they said, hey, I have loans, I have family, I don't have a job in hand, I can't live. Let me just go through this. If you do not have control of your time, if you do not have control of your decision,
Mm-hmm.
human beings exist basically based on empowerment and control. The moment somebody is bedridden, they are not unhappy because they're bedridden. They're unhappy because they can't do things on their own.
Mm.
Why do old people react very aggressively? Because they no longer
They
have
can't
the
do
control
anything.
that they
Yeah.
once held. If you are not able to have your control, it's difficult. That comes with good financial stability. If you don't have that, please don't think of setting something on your own.
Mm.
Third, when I wanted to start up, I shamelessly called many people in the recruitment space, all good friends whom I once helped enrolling them into my company as recruitment vendors, spoke to
Mm-hmm.
them and asked them, how does this work?
Mm.
None of them, I can give you names, none of them look at it as a competition. I'm so grateful for the community in itself, right? Understand the business, understand how people are doing. People have failed,
Mm.
people have succeeded, people understand it in depth. So learn from them. That's your third. Understand your market, etc. Fourth, I spoke to people, HR leaders, and I told them that if I started something on my own, would you work with me?
Mm.
And 9 out of 10 people said they will.
Yeah.
But I was more curious to know why. So I said, why? And they told me that, Zeeshan, I don't trust your company. I trust you
Mm.
as a person.
You. Yeah.
That to me is the biggest thing, right? The biggest
Mm.
accomplishment anybody can have. Any business works on high degree of trust. If you trust, if they trust you, everything else is taken care of. They told me, I'll work with you because I trust you as a brand. I can't emphasize this enough. The first 10 clients will be
Mm.
from places that you never imagined.
Mm.
And the first few criticisms will come from people whom you never thought will criticize. This
Mm.
could be family members, this could be close friends, this could be people saying that you cannot do this, don't get into this, it's not a market, etc. and things like that.
Got it. Now here's the thing, like in all of this, I think the biggest thing that stands out is the trust that that person has built over time. Right? If there's somebody who's just been an untrustworthy person, let's say, and they say they are starting a business and they call up people, no one's going to trust, no one's really going to give them the shot. And that's why I think what we keep saying that, you, whatever you do in your job, in your life, just do it with integrity and ethics, and it all comes back. At that point, we don't think these things, but we don't know what will happen 2 years, 5 years in the future. Right? I think the big one that stood out for me was the trust that that person has built up in their career so far. And I think if somebody has built that up, then I think what you're saying, if they just take the plunge, believe in themselves, fall back on the trust that people have on them.
I'll give you an example, right? Like when I started Talentzy, one of my first clients, I was hiring for a global role, right? It could give me revenues upwards of 30 lakh, right? Just in that one hiring,
Wow. Okay.
right? Discussion closed, interview is done. And then I had a conversation with this candidate. The company loves this candidate. They want to make a
Hmm.
higher decision as soon as possible. I spoke to this person and I found him to be a huge culture red flag.
Hmm.
The next thing I do, it came naturally. Called the CEO and I said, please don't hire. I said, don't, because for me, this doesn't seem okay. And true face, right? Like, when you need a job, if you are an X version, once you know you've got a job, and if you're a Y version of yourself, then for me, that itself is double standards. Then where is the humility that you once started your journey with, right? So the easiest thing in life, Ranak, is humility. Easiest thing in life, the most simplest thing for any person to have acceptance from a wide community, to get social, to be accepted by 9 out of the 10% is humility. If you cannot have it in life, you don't go anywhere, right? And I feel these are some of the lessons that my mom has taught me, right? With talking to everybody with absolute respect. She is humble. She's talks to people. She accepts people from different backgrounds, etc., and things like that. I think some of these is like literally blessing for us as kids.
Yeah, that plays a big part, doesn't it? Like your upbringing with your family, your upbringing with your close friends, you're a reflection of, as I said, reflection of the people you surround yourself with. I want to double click on this thing, right? In one conversation, you figured out that this, I'm assuming it's one conversation, figured out that this person was not a culture fit, right? And that is, of course, a skill that you've developed over many, many years and many, many conversations, but that's super important. Right now, at least one of the good things I'm seeing is people are very, like they're treating the culture round as a veto round. Like all things okay, but if you're culturally not a fit, then we will not move ahead. We'd love to understand, like, how do you typically assess whether the person is a culture fit or not? Is there any principles you have in mind, or some self algorithms you have?
Follow your heart and intuitions, I would say. Your brain, I believe, takes less than 10 seconds to make a judgment. That judgment could be wrong or right, but most of the time it's right. During all my leadership conversation, I ask them few questions, right? The fundamental mistake we do as founders is hiring a leader purely based on technical competency. कुछ फटा है
Correct.
company में, let's
Yeah, I'll get
hire a
somebody.
brilliant
Yeah.
jerk to manage.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
so then you hire somebody, you seldom ask about people management, because the one who may be making that decision of hiring may not be a good people manager. How often do we get our best people managers in an interview process to measure somebody else's people management capability?
Yeah.
So I ask the leader, tell me one situation of how you've dealt with a poor performer at work.
Okay.
They are going to then double click and say, hey, poor performer, he was not performing. Then we spoke to them and got rid of that person. Or we
Okay.
gave option 1, option 2,
Yeah.
option 3, went through that process, etc., and things like that. We gave, unfortunately, it didn't happen, etc., and things. Some of them are smart enough to tell, we realize what is the root of the problem. The root of the problem is somebody else in the team, or the expectations during hiring, because of which that person has ended up becoming a poor performer. Most of them attend interviews with predefined questions and answers in their mind. When you ask them such questions, explain a scenario, give me a scenario based answer, then they're going to give you real situations of how they've dealt with it. So those are some of the ways we assess. Sometimes I just ask them, tell me your leadership style. Now I know they may not be aware of what are the different leadership styles, etc. But tell me, would you win over influence? Would you manage a team through authority? Are you a mix of authority and collaborative, etc., whatever, right? So that gives you some clarity in terms of how. And fourth, with, do they respect the interview process? What are their perspective about the founders, about the company, compared to their company? Do they value it as a smaller company? Okay, fair, it could be small, but do they disregard, disrespect? Those to me are red flags.
Got it. In it's interesting you started with intuition, and I get into this because I'd like to believe I'm also pretty good at this part. Like I'm very good at identifying who's good and bad. And many people have asked me, like, how do you identify it? I don't have an answer. I just say, it's feel,
Feel,
and there's
yes.
no answer. At least like it's great that you had these few points, because I don't. And many people have told me, no, you're wrong. You can't make a judgment in a minute. But I've 100%, at least been 90%
Yeah.
correct. Somehow, probably in the mental model back of the mind, I think the respect, humility, for me, I look at that quite a bit. The humility, respect, how truthful, how honest they are, and of course these things. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things we say, that you shouldn't form judgments, you shouldn't go with gut, you should be with data. But at the end of the day, intuition is a
Yeah,
massive part in all
yeah.
of this. And yes,
And
it's backed by years
yeah.
of experience, of course.
And look, these are not just random observation, right? Like that, I
Hmm.
agree that there can be bias, right? But these are based on years of speaking to people, talking to people.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised you have it, right? Because you're talking and interacting with so many people. If you feel everything checks and you feel something
Hmm.
is not right with this
Yeah.
candidate, something
Yeah.
is not right, then it's not right.
It's
Okay,
not right.
these
Yeah.
are nature's way of
Yeah.
telling you that
Yeah.
be careful, right?
Yeah. And every time I've not listened to that, I've suffered. Like every 100%
Every
times.
time.
Like, yeah. But let's get back to this one. How do you manage a jerk?
How do you manage?
A jerk.
Jerk. So let's pick from that thread, right? You want to solve
Yeah.
a business problem. You know that technically he or she is great.
Hmm.
Then they join an organization. 3 months down the line, things are getting done. You don't bother to understand how are things getting done. The founder is happy because things are getting done, and then this quiet quitting happens between team members, right? What's the outcome of a brilliant job? You will get things done, but businesses can't survive with just getting things done, right? You need to get people along. And what happens eventually is the ones who were your top performer once upon a time are
They
now
leave.
disregarded because this player has come who's getting things done. So that those player will quit.
Hmm.
Eventually you might find a replacement for this leader. You will never find a replacement for these set of
For
people
these,
who've
yeah.
been loyal
Yeah.
with you and things like that. So management of them is very important. Like I can give you examples. Like when I was working with one of these companies, we had a structured program for manager effectiveness. When I say
Mm-hmm.
manager effectiveness, these are not a session that you do and then all of them say we'll be good managers and go back to be yourself. These
Hmm.
are manager NPS that we launched, uh,
Okay.
which is called MNPS. All employees get to rate their managers.
Hmm.
Then this is a pre-survey that we do. So you rate your managers on different things, rate them into 0 to 10, etc. The
Mm-hmm.
ones who get negative scores are in one cohort. The ones who get
Okay.
average scores are in one cohort. Then the ones who get good scores are in the other cohort. The ones
Makes
who
sense.
get good scores literally like coach the ones who are in these two cohorts.
Sure.
And then you identify, go to a micro level and identify what are some of the key problems. And these will be common themes: communication skills, favoritism, regional discriminations, micromanager,
Hmm.
um, gender biased, aggressive in tonality, whatever. Then you find, you match, you put each of them into common themes like this. Have tailored programs, training programs, etc. Let them complete a 3 to 6 months course. After 6 months, you launch another MNPS. Listen to the same set of people who will give feedback. See if
Hmm.
things have moved from point A to point B. We saw 75% increase
Hmm.
from a detractor to a promoter. For the folks who are in negative, back. So there is improvement. For people, for the 25% lot, yeah, you've given a second chance, things didn't work, you
Hmm.
meaningfully exit. Most of the managers behave in a certain way because they think that they are widely accepted by their
Hmm.
reportees. Because none of the reportees, most of the reportees will not come and tell you that you're a jerk,
Hmm.
you're a bad manager. They will only go in coffee table conversations and tell that he is or she is not good. So you don't have self realization. When you have self realization, if you're defensive, you're done to death. If you're
Hmm.
open, then there is feedback and you can get better.
Hmm.
I can give you in writing that a person who's not a good people manager will somewhere stop at his career or her career
Yeah.
and then they will
100%.
struggle, right?
100%.
That is extremely important. There are two problems of a brilliant jerk. One, when a brilliant jerk slash and a leader joins an organization, he or she brings their tribe along from
Yeah.
specific company, and the company is now about those ex company. That culture comes in, and that there's an amalgamation, and then there's a kitchen. Or the second thing that literally happens is that he or she is going to perform really well. The people under them suffer
Hmm.
because they have immunity. So you are now a superstar in the eyes of the founder. Nobody
Hmm.
can touch you, but you know karma is a. So
Hmm.
someday it will hit you.
Hmm. And they can change, right? Like the structured program that you said. When I first became a manager, I very proudly now say that, not proudly, proudly is the wrong word. I am open about it that I was a jerk. and my whole team of 11 people quit just because of me. Everybody said it was because of me. And it is because of people, the leaders who took me under the wing for months. I just opened up the eyes that this is not how, you should do. Like as you go along, you matter less, your team matters more. Right? That servant leadership, while people make fun of it, it is how, great leadership is done.
Ranak, I'd love to
Mm.
like switch roles, right, and
Mm.
have you on a podcast someday and get to
Mm.
hear your story, right? It's one of the most
Sure.
common stories that managers go through. Like I was a very
Yeah.
bad manager as I started, right? Because it also gives you the pride. You think that you can do
Yeah.
things, etc. But eventually you evolve. I met somebody recently who said that it was very difficult to work with you in the past, Zeeshan. Now
Mm.
it's so comfortable. And then I also realized that the ones who with whom there was these teething issues, right, now want to work with me, because
Mm.
eventually being a people manager is also not easy. I'm sure, Ranak, you
Mm.
realize, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes with its own challenge. You have a 10-member team, you
Mm.
promote 2 people, the other 8 people are not gonna garland you, right?
Yeah.
At least 50% of them are gonna think, why these 2 people got, why didn't I get? Every excellent people manager is disliked on any given day when that decision is not in favor of a reportee.
Yeah.
Imagine a reportee screws up something and people managers neck is on fire and he or she reacts, so that
Mm.
best employee is going to feel miserable that why did he or she react in a way. It's a very
Mm.
difficult job. It's important to just navigate and balance, because you all,
Mm.
while you're managing work, you have to manage emotions. You have to ensure
Mm.
all of them are happy at all point in time. You have to then take decisions and things like that accordingly. So it's not easy.
Mm.
I have seen in my own life, I've stood by some of them in their most difficult situation in their career, when they would have potentially lost a job. I would have fought for them, and I've seen them go the direct opposite way and things like that, right? So it's difficult, right? Sometimes it's very hard to believe that this could exist, but end of the day, that's how we are, right? One day you become people
Mm.
manager, you realize the challenges that's kind of involved in it.
But let's stay on this thread. See, from a people manager, a leader, to now an entrepreneurial leader, right? Who's the founder of a company. How's it different, right? Is it different, or is it, in your experience, how do you carry that through into this journey?
Everything should have a purpose in life, Rana.
Mm.
When you have a purpose in life, selling that purpose also attracts business for you. You
Correct.
don't create purpose to get business, but it automatically attracts business for you.
Mm.
Many people in the recruitment industry don't realize that they are giving jobs and transforming lives of so many people. They are powering prosperity for
Yeah.
the world. You are answering somebody else's prayers. You're God
Mm.
sent. The one whom I'm interviewing today, example, could have prayed last night crying in front of God saying, I need a job. You have sourced that person. You are giving that person a job. That person's family will get a better life. Child will get a better life. Parents will get a better life. They are going to be happy that their standard of living has increased.
Mm.
If you didn't exist, they wouldn't have had a job. I tell this to all my reportees and all my team members. Like, sorry, this corporate
Mm.
teaches you these reportee terms. They're all my team
Mm.
members, my founding
Mm.
members. I tell them all, what you're doing is giving life. Like, don't look at this as 20 closures for the month. Look at
Mm.
20 lives you've transformed. 20 into 4 people average. 80 lives you've transformed. It's not easy. Now, coming back, how do you manage team members? I give them these things. I tell them the importance. They come from that background that they can absorb. I give them importance. I tell them what's the importance of having a job. I do this math, Ranak. I don't know if I overthink. That's my fundamental problem. So I overthink everything, which is also an advantage to me. If you look at a security guard for a 10K salary, he or she stands in the hot sun 30 days.
Mm.
Break that 10,000 divided by 30 and look at per day salary.
Mm.
Our Zomato bills go up to 5K, right?
Mm.
Look at it from this lens. Talentzy is a leadership search firm. So we
Mm.
don't do junior roles.
Mm.
I'll soon have a plan for that. Maybe a company that deals with it. But when I
Mm.
say no to a client, when I reject a business idea, I end up thinking that how much would it take Like it would
Hmm.
literally be a 2 year, 3 year income for a security guard standing there for 1,000 days to earn the
Hmm.
money that you would have got with just one
Hmm.
client. We
Hmm.
just don't understand this because we always compare ourselves to the people above. We never compare ourselves to the one who are struggling to make ends meet.
Hmm.
Today, you go to a guy vendor, take the 1,000 rupees that you would spend on Zomato and give that person. He's gonna go back home early, get a good night's sleep because he doesn't have to sell in the street for that 1,000 rupees. That's the
Hmm.
calculation that I keep doing in my mind when I look at anything, and that has given me a lot of respect for life in itself.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to. It's very difficult for most people to even realize and connect with what you're saying, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, like in my previous company, Work India, right? The core mission was to provide livelihood to like the 24, 28 crore blue collared in India, and we got to see upfront. Like I went to Domino's pizza shop where the server boy had got a job from Work India, and he was saying, "Sir, I come from this remotest part of Assam or Orissa, where nobody in their gaon and all had even imagined that they could move to Bangalore and make a good living of 20, 25,000." I mean, I came out and I started crying because I had never heard that from somebody saying that. And I went back and I told the story to the folks that, guys, you guys, and to the developers especially, that you guys are not just writing code, you're you're typing livelihoods. What you're doing here is having an impact on people who's probably, they're happy, their parents are alive, they have a chhut to live on, their sisters have got married. That would never have happened if you hadn't written these lines of codes, right? So it's not just something that you're doing sitting in a comfortable office having our, oh, my bean is dark roasted and light roasted. Don't worry about these things, right? There's a
No, no, absolutely.
yeah, there's a much
You're
higher purpose.
yeah, you're literally leading a life of somebody else's
Mm.
prayers. Somebody
Mm.
else is praying for a life that you are having today. I see a
Yeah,
lot of entitlement for today's generations, unfortunately. And if there's one thing that I would want to change is that mindset because entitlement doesn't teach you resilience. You sometimes need to empty stomach and empty pockets teach us some of the best life lessons.
amazing, Z. Before we sign off, first of all, thank you for coming in, sharing. I hope even if one person listens to this and they can take away something, right? Be it on entrepreneurship, be it on just being a better person, being a good human, being a good manager, being somebody who doesn't come with a lot of entitlement, then I think we would have said that, okay, we've achieved what we wanted to do. But before, again, closing thoughts before we sign off, for everyone again listening in, and also maybe you can tell where people can find you, where they can come to see what Talentzy does.
Sure. So no, thank you so much, Ranak, for having me here. I've told you this. I've always loved watching your shows,
Thank
having
you.
diverse set of
Mm.
people. Love those snippets. Love the work you do in AI. I have a lot to learn there, and I love the fact
Thank
that you've
you.
started things on your own. So, where can people find more about Talentzy? One, follow our website, www.talentzy.in. It has everything that you need if you're looking for a job or looking to hire. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, share your views around what you've heard today and things like that. You can follow us on the Talentzy LinkedIn page. I've started a one question series where I answer questions, frequently asked
That's
questions by people. So I'll be more on camera going forward. So
mm.
that's my way of giving back. So you can follow us. I keep sharing a lot of content, etc. We are also on Instagram. So these are certain places. If you need personal coaching, conversations, etc., I'm also available on TopMate. You can hit me up there and we can speak.
All right. Awesome, Z. I will leave all of these links below, folks. Feel free to go check it out. DM Zeeshan or follow him. And I think you're one of the top 5%, right? In Top Mate. Please go talk to him. All right, Z. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. It was amazing having you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Ranak.